Story 1. Clean the house before going on vacation. It doesn't have to be a complete cleaning. Just do the dishes, tidy up the bathroom, and ensure the laundry is done. This preparation makes you appreciate the vacation more and is a significant gift to yourself when you return home. Story 2. If I am having a hard time absorbing information, I have to imagine explaining it to someone else who does not understand that sort of thing. I end up imagining whole scenarios and lessons, which makes the information stick much better than repeating it to myself. Story 3. Every few days, I check in on a different friend. I typically just send a simple, "How's it going?" with an article or image attached that I think they would find interesting. Most of the time, everyone is fine, but when someone is in a difficult situation, such as being in the hospital, going through a divorce, or moving across state lines and feeling worried, I'm glad I checked in. Story 4. Talk about people as if they have overheard you. It's not about being nice. It's the idea that even if I express frustration about someone, I want to at least be able to justify why I said it. I see too many people get caught up in venting and forget to check if they even believe what they're saying. It's a straightforward rule, but it eliminates much pointless internal drama and petty grudges. Story 5. If you don't address it now the way you desire, you will have to confront it later in a way you might not prefer. Story 6. Every time I see a child wearing glasses, I make it a point to say, "I really like your glasses." As a middle schooler who wore glasses for the first time, the level of self-consciousness I experienced was extreme. Even if only 1 out of every dozen children reacts positively, it is worth it to me. Story 7. Correct spelling and pronunciations of names show an effort to be respectful. It's rooted in the fact that many misspell my name, which tells me they don't think details matter, when detail is everything. Story 8. Say hello to the owner or greeter when I enter a store or shop, and say goodbye and thank you when I leave, even if no one hears or sees me do it. Story 9. Never take my anger out on other people. No matter how mad or upset someone makes me, I make sure not to direct it towards or take it out on anyone else. I was the person my father directed his anger towards, and it was miserable. Story 10. Adults must stand by their words. I am finished trying to read between the lines and guess at uncertainties. It saves a lot of energy. Story 11. When you are standing up to leave a place such as a restaurant, ride-sharing service, movie theater, or anywhere else, turn around and check your seat before you go. I have saved myself from losing many phones, sunglasses, umbrellas, and sweaters since I started doing this. Story 12. Trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, leave. If someone doesn't seem right, leave. Your intuition is valuable. If you feel a sense of unease, it's time to go. Story 13. Telling someone a kind compliment about themselves always brings a smile and brightens their day. Story 14. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. This applies to all consumables and essentials. Toilet paper, charging cables, nail clippers, and more. Related. Include one of every cable and toiletry in each bag. Story 15. When shopping, if a product is damaged, I turn it upside down. I am not sure if others see my signal, but I have done my part. Story 16. When life gets difficult, I allow myself an evening of pure wallowing. Ice cream, sobbing, the whole experience. Then I keep going. Some weeks require 3 wallowing evenings, but I continue pushing forward. Story 17. Just assume when you lend money that you won't get it back. If you do, then it's a pleasant surprise and that person earns bonus points. Story 18. Never drive directly behind a logging truck. To be fair, I assume many people follow this rule after watching a certain movie. Here, the logs are securely chained down and appear safe. Do I trust it? No. Story 19. Don't listen to anything your mind tells you after 10 p.m. My mental health isn't great, and I can really start to spiral sometimes if I stay up late. I tell myself this and go to bed, and it often feels better in the morning. Story 20. When I am feeling down, I shower, dress nicely, and go grab a coffee by myself. The confidence boost works wonders. Story 21. I am extremely forgetful, but if you don't live with me, You would never know it because I have a system that prevents me from forgetting when I think I might. I have a bag for every activity I regularly participate in. Everything I need is in there and remains there. If I know I will need something tomorrow, but for some reason, can't put it in my bag now, I leave it somewhere I have to interact with before I leave the next morning, such as in front of the door or in the sink. My phone, keys, and wallet go in my pocket as soon as I put on pants and stay there until I go to bed. I avoid changing into sweatpants because I know I would walk out without my keys if I did. Anything I can't prepare for in advance gets a checklist. Story 22. Work does not exist outside office hours. My work phone gets switched off at the end of the day. I make a note of where I left off and come back to it the next day. Not only does this help me switch off, it also encourages me to address the reasons work tends to extend beyond office hours. I am now much more efficient, better at managing my workload, and more skilled at setting boundaries and expectations with others. It has become incredibly rare for me to need to work outside of core hours. Story 23. Your job should either make you happy or provide enough income for you to be happy outside of work, unless it is a certain way to progress your career in either direction. So, when I feel frustrated at a job, I ask myself if I am happy. Story 24. If you fall deeply and quickly for someone, check if your trauma is leading you into another unhealthy situation. Story 25. I don't believe in disrespecting people in their own homes. I have no idea why. If we're in your house and you are behaving poorly, I won't argue or fight with you. I will just leave. It's this strange principle ingrained in me that rejects treating people badly, even if it's well-deserved, in their own homes. Story 26. I will always trust my instincts, whether it's maintaining distance from someone who gives off strange vibes or avoiding a dark corner. Story 27. If I open the fridge and don't find anything good, I still check the pantry and then the fridge again, as if snacks magically respawn. Story 28. Avoid switching queues in the grocery store. The shorter line that seems appealing is often occupied by an elderly lady with multiple coupons and a checkbook. Story 29. All trips begin in the bathroom, whether you need to go or not. It doesn't matter if it's a cross-country road trip or a 5-minute jaunt to the gas station. I will at least attempt to pee first. Story 30. Okay, this is for everyone to hear, so please pay attention. You might be wrong. Rather than standing on a hill and defending it to the death, take a minute to think. What if your perspective is the wrong one? This concept has saved me many times. Story 31. Before ordering food, determine what you have on hand that you can cook in 10 to 15 minutes. This saves money, provides better nutrition, and delivers a hot meal with the flavors you prefer in the time it would take to go out, pick something up, and come home to eat. Plus, there are leftovers for the next day. Story 32. I believed I invented the idea of doing only one illegal thing or breaking one rule at a time. It was never explicitly told to me, but I internalized that concept early on. I then realized it was essentially a universal mantra for people who prefer not to get caught doing foolish things. Story 33. 2 points. 1. Compliments should stem from a person's choices or thoughts, not their genetics. The 5-minute rule. If a person cannot change something in 5 minutes, then we should refrain from commenting on it. Story 34. Always put the grocery cart back. It's a minimal effort. Try to be understanding and kind to everyone, even if you think you will never see them again. The less you say, the less you have to explain later. Give people your full attention when they talk to you. Don't put it down. Put it away. Story 35. If I get excited about something, it won't happen or it will be disappointing if it does. I have to convince myself that I really don't want something in order to succeed in getting it or enjoying it. It's actually quite messed up, but honestly, that's just how things have always turned out for me. I don't even watch movie trailers anymore because if I'm excited for the movie, it will disappoint me. Story 36. Whether you enjoy a book is often influenced by your state of mind as much as by the content of the book. Half of my top 10 books started out as did not finish or 2-star reads. Story 37. Do the dishes as soon as possible. The longer they sit there, the harder it is to motivate yourself to finish them. If you do not want to do the dishes, do not cook something that requires a lot of dishes. This can be applied more broadly. Do not make a mess you are not prepared to clean up. It helps me not let things build up and get out of control. A less important principle is never break the seal, which I apply to games with microtransactions. Once I spend money on it once, I know I will be comfortable doing it again. So, I have a rule that I never do that. Another guideline is to only drink alcohol 2 nights a week at most, with vacation as an exception. Limit yourself to 1 sugary drink a day at most. Since implementing this, I do not even want soda anymore unless it is a good root beer. But 1 per day applies until the supply is gone, and most days I never have a sugary drink. Story 38. Pay off your credit cards in full every month. Use credit for everything to earn cashback bonuses. Story 39. I experienced severe migraines that include brain fog. As a teenager, I began listing the colors around me to help refocus my mind. As an adult, I started using this technique to manage anxiety and overstimulation as well. I have since learned that I essentially developed a grounding technique on my own without realizing that therapists teach similar methods. Story 40. If someone crosses my mind a few times, I text them to say hello, especially if I haven't spoken to them in a while. Story 41. If you meet a friendly cat, pet it. There is no real consequence to this, other than you and the cat sharing a nice moment and the possibility of participating in the cat distribution system. Story 42. Take the clothes out of the washer, then shake and loosen them before putting them in the dryer. This will result in fewer wrinkles and quicker drying time. Story 43. I wash my hands as soon as I get home. It doesn't matter where I have been or what I have been doing. I wash my hands before I start touching anything in my house. I have done this for years, and since 2020, I have encouraged my partner to do it as well. Story 44. When you leave a voicemail, use the following script. Hi, this is name. My phone number is number. I'm calling regarding subject. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. Again, my number is number. It is important to provide your phone number early in the message and repeat it at the end. This gives the recipient 2 chances to hear it without having to listen to the entire message again. Story 45. If I am worried about something going randomly and catastrophically wrong, I might think, what if my car loses a wheel right now? Or what if I get struck by lightning? I will tell myself, well, now that I have thought about it, it is way less likely to happen. What are the odds that something crazy would happen and that I would be able to predict it beforehand? So far, I have never been proven wrong. Story 46. I am very selective about who I allow to sit around my table. You are defined by the company you keep, and if you do not aspire to be like the people surrounding you, then take your leave and find your own space. Story 47. Just let the person merge in. Who cares if they are being rude? You do not lose anything by allowing them to merge, but cutting them off will likely lead to something worse. It is okay to be the bigger person. Story 48. No dirty dishes in the sink. No excuses. You can wash while the pan is heating up, wash while it's simmering or coming to a boil. After the meal, as soon as the dishes touch the sink, take the 10 seconds to scrub them down and place them in the drying rack or dishwasher. This stems from childhood experiences of growing up in a hoarder house with many cockroaches around overnight. No dirty dishes. Story 49. Do not be afraid to speak up in meetings to challenge what you have just been told. I used to sit there and listen to the misleading information about the company and its work, knowing it was nonsense from our on-the-ground perspective. I became increasingly frustrated with my job, my manager, and the company. Once I started challenging issues in company meetings and becoming more assertive, I found I was much more confident in addressing important matters like health and safety or orders from supervisors to do things against policy that could result in termination. Previously, I would have just complied and then felt frustrated and angry. I have a better relationship with my manager now, as talking to him has shown me he feels pressure to convey the narratives he receives from upper management. He is as much a victim of misleading information as we are, and colleagues have expressed that they feel the same and have thanked me for speaking out. I now enjoy my job because I call out misleading information when I see or hear it. Story 50. Babies need hats. Hot outside? The baby needs a sun hat. Cold? Needs a beanie. Lovely day? It needs an accessory. This was my mom's rule, and to this day, anytime I see a baby out in public with its fuzzy head on display, I hear my mom's voice as she whispered disapprovingly through her teeth. That baby needs a hat. I apologize if I upset any parents. It's a lighthearted rule I have as someone who will never have kids. It's my personal joke judgment in memory of my late mom, not a rule I think you or your children need to follow. Story 51. I always tell myself I will just rest my eyes for 5 minutes, then wake up 2 hours later in a completely different dimension wondering what day it is, where I am, and why my phone is at 2% for no reason. Story 52. If I drop a snack on the floor but it lands right side up, it is still spiritually clean. The 5-second rule does not apply to the bottom if the universe protected the top. Story 53. I always drive with the utmost etiquette for semi-trucks. If I see they are trying to change lanes and my overtaking could impede them, I blink my lights and hold back. They have a hard job and are largely underappreciated. Story 54. When you are within 5 miles of your job, drive and behave your best. I have been cut off multiple times by superiors who drive recklessly. I definitely thought about expressing my frustration before accidentally following them to the office. Story 55. I noticed in my early teens over 50 years ago that when I started feeling down or depressed, 2 things would predictably help: vigorous exercise and helping someone else. Story 56. Compliment people I encounter. For example, when speaking to a person in a store, I might say, "I like your shoes. Your hair looks great." Or, "I love the paint job on your truck." Story 57. My fantasies need to be with fictional characters. I have no idea why, but imagining a real person makes me feel bad for them. So before starting, I always need to create an imaginary girlfriend. Story 58. Always tell the truth and only lie when you are in a life or death situation. There is no reason to keep track of lies because I live that way, and let me tell you, so many people lie. It's terrifying. Story 59. Smaller and vulnerable individuals tend to walk furthest away from the road, while stronger individuals stay closer to it. I never noticed this behavior until my ex-husband pointed it out one day. Now, I observe that many people do the same, but it doesn't seem to be a conscious or learned decision. Story 60. Do not attribute to malice what can be adequately attributed to ignorance. If someone does something that could be seen as mean, can it be explained by their lack of understanding? If yes, then that is the most likely reason for their actions. Story 61. After opening a pop can, I turn the tab slightly to the left, just pointing northwest. This helps me identify my specific drink immediately, and the tab is less floppy this way. Story 62. If a chore, cleaning something up, or putting it back in its place takes less than 60 seconds, do it immediately. For example, a jacket can be hung up instead of tossed on a chair, an empty bottle can be placed in the trash, a plate can go into the dishwasher instead of being left on the coffee table, and a toilet paper roll can be replaced. It's right there in front of you, and it takes less than a minute. You don't have to set aside time for it, and it prevents tasks from accumulating into larger ones later on. Story 63. If you are debating whether to do something one last time, don't do it. This realization started after one last run while snowboarding left me with my collarbone protruding from my shoulder. I began to understand that those one last time moments rarely live up to the good feelings I experienced during the internal debate. That is usually when things go wrong. Now, if I am feeling really good at the end of whatever I am doing, I simply take that good feeling and leave. Story 64. If I don't need to separate, I will always shake eggs very well when cooking. There was a Mickey Mouse comic where Mickey was an incredibly talented television chef, and everyone tried to replicate his recipes, but they never tasted the same. Mickey said the magic lies in how you prepare the dish and how you feel while cooking, and shaking eggs was one important step. Story 65. I would prefer someone to be honest with me than to deceive me. Even if I do not like what they say, I will thank them for their honesty and let them know I respect them for it. This has surprised a few people, but they think more highly of me for accepting their truth. I have never had a negative reaction to what I say in response, and it often diffuses the situation. Story 66. Always invest in high-quality cling film or plastic wrap. Kind regards, someone who has previously bought cheap versions and continued to struggle with them instead of throwing them in the trash. Story 67. To apologize promptly when I have wronged someone. To give people the benefit of the doubt. To avoid stressing over things I cannot control. Story 68. Do not change lanes or merge in front of any car unless you can see both their headlights in the rearview mirror. Story 69. Wash your hair first. Leave the conditioner in until you are finished with the shower, then rinse it out. It feels like it needs that extra time to work effectively. Story 70. I never wear matching socks. It's bad luck. It's just a small way to oppose an unjustified need for symmetry. Story 71. Walking on the right side of the hallway is important. I try to teach my students to do this, but it can be a struggle. Story 72. I go through life assuming I'm being recorded and that it's possible the recording could be made public. This mindset prevents me from being unkind, even when I'm alone, and stops me from saying mean or gossiping things about others behind their backs. While I still have negative thoughts about people or their actions at times, by assuming I'm being recorded, I only express things I can defend to that person's face if necessary. This approach helps me remain honest, kind, and less petty, and it gives me confidence when speaking to people I may not particularly like. I also don't worry when I'm actually being recorded, such as by a security camera or doorbell camera, because I am already in the habit of assuming I'm being recorded. Story 73. Your personal dignity is priceless. Tell the truth even if it hurts you. Act like you think people will like you, even if you are unsure. You are not hungry. You are bored or anxious. Protect your lower back. Do not be afraid of confrontation. Some of the most valuable information about a person is how far they are willing to escalate things. Story 74. If you wouldn't want it to happen to you, don't do it to others. Never cheat somebody out of their rights. If it's theirs, it's theirs. Even if it's something as small as a pen or paper. Story 75. Assume positive intent. Not because I'm naive, especially when bad intent is obvious, but in situations where someone may be inconsiderate, lazy, passive-aggressive, or genuine, it isn't clear. Why worry about their motives? It takes less mental energy to just assume positive intent and act accordingly. For example, if a colleague makes the same mistake repeatedly that you have to correct, why dwell on whether it is intentional or simply lazy? Just talk to them and assume positive intent. You might say, I noticed that you inadvertently overlooked filling in a part of the spreadsheet I rely on for my analysis. Can I show you where it is and where to find the information so that I don't have to bother you again? Story 76. When making a round-trip journey to the store, never return via the exact same path you originally took if there is any alternative. Life can feel dull and repetitive. I will sacrifice efficiency for the sake of variety and take side streets and longer routes just to mix things up. This often baffles my passengers. Story 77. I have been self-employed for about 20 years. One of the first rules I made for myself was to start work at 9 a.m. I still begin around 9 on most days, even if I don't have much to do, like today. Story 78. The rule of threes. There are 3 seasons: hot, warm, and cold. There are 3 types of music: the tunes you like, the tunes you don't like, and the tunes you tolerate. There are 3 generations: mine, older, and younger. There are 3 relationship statuses: married, single, or not being truthful about it. Story 79. I compliment the important people in my life as frequently as possible without it sounding excessive or like a joke. They certainly do not get enough compliments otherwise. Story 80. The reboot rule. When you feel like everyone hates you, sleep. When you feel like you hate everyone, eat. When you feel like you hate yourself, shower. Story 81. Wash my hands before touching my genitals to urinate. You get one pleasure stick, so take care of it. During that same trip or any other trip to a public restroom, Use a paper towel to open the door. You would be surprised how many people do not wash their hands afterwards. Story 82. Just be kind. That's it. That's all. I used to be a difficult person. I was tough for the sake of being tough. I was right for the sake of being right. I interrupted people when they spoke. My favorite topic was myself. I teased people jokingly. I was in a toxic relationship where we were both terrible to each other. I was angry all the time, always the victim, and on my 32nd birthday, I found myself celebrating alone and without friends. I sat there for a long time and tried to understand what had happened. My first thought was that then I realized I was the common denominator in this situation. That's when I changed pretty much everything. I stopped watching a certain negative news channel. I started making an effort to be kind to people. It was hard to relearn how to argue, disagree, or even have conversations, but I persisted, using online advice forums to learn how. I identified my own toxic behavior and worked to address it, trying to remove the root so it never grew back. The biggest change I made was spending time with many people whose views I did not agree with. I listened to feminists, people with addiction issues, progressives, individuals from diverse backgrounds, those who had lost everything, musicians who disliked the government, and people who chanted against systemic injustice. Took time, but I don't even recognize the person I was in my 20s. I dislike that version of myself. Being kinder has had the most significant impact on my life, more than anything else, including college or landing that dream job. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.